Okay. It's 4. Let's wait 1 minute. Keith is still joining. All right. So I think we can call the meeting to order. We have a quorum in the Infrastructure and Financial Planning Committee. I can report that Jim Bray is not going to be able to make it due to work, so we have the complete committee as of today right now. So I'll call the meeting to order here at 4:01. So if you'll start the recording, Kevin.
We're recording?
We are recording, good.
Yep.
So roll call, I'm here, Knut.
Kevin's here.
Earl is here.
He's here.
Okay. So we just have Jim missing or absent. Public present, we have a quiet board member present. So 1. Adoption of agenda. The only thing was the minutes to approve is going to be March 16th, not March 4th, as I put it. So that's the one change I have.
Also, too, I noticed that we've got the next meeting is April 29. We want to change that to April 22 and stick on the 2-week.
Yep.
Even though we've offset the week, it doesn't really matter.
Yep, I got it. So with those changes.
Okay.
Oh, Jeff is joining, huh? Okay, so I changed the next meeting to be April 22nd. Yeah, I agree. We have a lot of work ahead of us here. So with those changes, I would like to move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Yeah, I'm for that. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, let me bring up the minutes, and thanks to Burl for contributing to those as well. Let's see. All right, are you able to see the minutes?
Yes.
Good. So quickly, there was no comments from the public. We reviewed the submission of the RFP for fuel system engineering. We talked about the priorities and that we would present to the board for underfunded and unfunded items. We did that, and the board acted on that in the last board meeting. So that's pretty much what this describes. I think we spent a lot of time on the fee proposal for additional aircraft, and it was also presented at the board meeting. There was some suggestions to changes to that, and I think you may have an update on that today too. But I think this pretty much captures what we agreed upon in the last INF meeting and what to present to the board. And then we had a discussion about the airport vehicle and recommending the board to look at that as an unfunded. So the funding for that was actually approved at the last board meeting. So, and then of course I have to change, the next meeting became April 8th instead. But I guess at the time it was April 1st.
Yeah, the minutes look good to me.
Okay. I'd like to move that we approve the minutes then from March 16th. I'll make them.
I would second that.
Okay, aye.
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 Kevin.
Okay. All right, any comments, public? Let me go back to.
Actually, neither one can participate.
Oh, that's true.
Can't have a board quorum
Right.
that's present. So the rule is you can listen in and take notes, but as far as participating, it causes problems with a quorum issue, as I understand it.
Yes, that's correct. All right. So let's move on to old business. First one is an update on the request for proposal for the engineering services regarding the fuel system. And today, I guess, is the deadline for anybody to reply to that. So
Yeah, the deadline's like right now, and what I'm aware of, unless something else slipped in, is we had one response. The amount was north of 23,000, and so we need to discuss next steps tomorrow and reevaluate and
Right.
see what happened. The project budget for the RFP was 5,000, thinking it was going to be something under 15 or 20 hours work that we're asking him to do, and hopefully it's a miscommunication and we can resolve. But I think the appropriate thing we're going to have to do is revise and announce to all the anybody else we sent it to what the status is. And if we decide to move forward, if there appears to be a path to move forward and stay within our original budget,
right.
then we reissue it and go through the process again. If we feel that's a legitimate number, then we either have to figure out how to pay for it or we just stop the whole thing in its tracks. So
Right.
Nothing's easy in Cameron Park. So that's
Right.
those, I believe, are the legitimate options we have to respond to it.
Yeah, so well, the official opening is going to be tomorrow, right? So once
Well, the official opening, the closeout, if we get one late tonight, in theory, we can ignore it or should ignore it. And then we will review it, what we have, which is the one I'm aware of. And I
Right.
admittedly did not read the details,
Right.
but the bottom line appears to be quite a bit in excess of our estimate. So we need to understand what's going on there.
So I think the conclusion here is that we will review what was submitted, and then we will probably revise our RFP and resubmit to the ones we did.
I hope so, because we still need the activity accomplished.
Exactly. Right. Sounds good.
The
I
other-
see this. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that's it. I think if that's unfeasible, then we look upon forging ahead ourselves to do a preliminary submit to the county. I think that's our plan B, but it's preferable to have the expertise on board, I think, which is what we've been saying all along. So
Right.
we have some options, but we'll have to figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So I think for the minutes, we can say bid exceeds budget. We'll review or something like that.
Yeah.
Which happens.
Okay. All right, so we can close on that one for tonight, right now, but I guess it'll come up for next, our next committee meeting will be before the board meeting, which is the 26th. So I'll keep it on the agenda then for next meeting.
Yes. Now, I guess we should discuss as a committee whether we need to revisit any revised RFP, because whatever we do won't change the sense of what we're doing, whether we need to wait for another meeting to review visions or what you want to do. So we should kick that around a little bit. See if the committee cares.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I would suggest that we as a committee approve that we can revise and resubmit when we review why it came in so high and what they included that we didn't ask for.
I hope that's the case. Admittedly, I didn't read it in detail,
Right.
but I think they went well overboard of what we actually need for the moment. So we can work on that.
But I guess we need the other committee members to speak up if they'll think we can do that. Would that need to go to the board for approval?
No,
No.
we're not unless we choose to ask for the difference in money, then we go to the board.
That's true, yeah. We still have the limit of, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're okay, and I think it's a whether I don't know. I guess the most public thing to do is re-review it at the next INF meeting and then move forward from there on what we're going to do. But I
Okay, so
think
you are recommending that we wait until the 22nd?
Well, I'm open for discussion because I think we're obligated to report to the other potential bidders the status. So we need to give some kind of an update out
Mm-hmm.
pretty soon. So one option is to leave it to the judgment of the people that are going to review it. And if they feel it changes or the scope has to change to get in within budget, then we should wait and review it at the next meeting. But if it's a miscommunication or they've gone way beyond what we think is necessary, then I think we could clean it up and resubmit or submit a clarification, however you want to do it.
Okay, so why don't we do that? If it's a matter of them including services that we didn't ask for, then we can resubmit, and otherwise we'll bring it up on the 22nd.
Yeah, the other thing that's legal to do, and I've done, is you basically say to all the other bidders, you know, here's an extension, give us your best and final offer, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a NASA practice that we would have to go back begging for somebody just to respond to some of the RFPs that we had, and that was the process that we went through, like you just described there, bro.
Yeah, so that's a legitimate. I think we're kind of following the federal acquisition regs without really, you know, getting too tied up in that. But
Okay.
My suggestion again is, as long as the committee doesn't care, we'll review what they gave us versus what we were anticipating in the proposal, clarify, resend out a clarification to the RFP and extend the bid date a week or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because
Sounds
otherwise
good.
these things drag out forever. Now, if it's a significant scope change or we don't see any way other than exceeding the existing budget, then it'll have to wait for the committee to review next meeting and then board approval of any funding. So I think that's how I would look at it.
Yeah. All right. Unless there are any other comments, let's move on to the status of multi-aircraft fee proposal update.
Okay, I guess that's me. Now, I did not rewrite it, but the latest thinking was to modify the details in order to pick up the commercial uses of the places and not so much residents that happen to have a lot of airplanes. And Dave Becker brought that idea up, and I think that's probably really what we're trying to do. So it changes the theme of the proposal to one of trying to capture the additional fees associated with those that rent out their space to a non-resident use or rent their space, or it's like the commercial properties that rent out T hangars and hangars, and not necessarily go after residents that happen to have multiple airplanes. So I think if we could kick that around and see if that works. Now, a bigger issue has come up as we're learning more about aircraft fee, the fee structures for special districts. We had a conversation with the consultants regarding some other issues, and it appears that this multi-aircraft fee, seeing as how it has not been in play and has not been picked up all these years, smells and tastes like a new fee, and we do not have the legitimate certified fee analysis to back up whatever fee we charge. So I suspect that we have a legal issue to proceed on that anyway at this point. Because as we talked about, that we don't have a real basis for the fee other than that looks about right. So I think the ABs 218 and some of the other bills drive us to the point of having to have a real financial analysis to justify the amount. And then we can proceed. So I think we've got a couple issues there. I think we should keep working on it. But I think it's got additional issues that came up since the last time we talked about it.
Yeah, I think I agree kind of with what Dave Becker suggested, that it could be worded, as you said, and distinguish commercial versus resident with multiple aircraft. So
Yeah, and I think as long as everybody agrees on the theme, we'll continue working that theme.
right.
And then it's likely we're gonna have to deal with get an answer on the legal issues
Hmm.
before we can just invoke it, so to speak.
All right. So I think that's where we can't really do much else. Maybe we can revise it some more before the next board meeting, but as you said,
Well,
if we need that.
I think we should continue to work on it because I think it has viability and it had a lot of public support.
Yeah.
So we can work on changing the sense of it to the capture, whatever you call it, commercial use or whatever aircraft, and then
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Okay.
But I don't know the answer to the legal concerns. That's an ongoing issue.
So I guess we may learn more about that next week when they have that.
There's
CSTA.
there's a webinar next week. And we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay. So anything else on this multi-aircraft fee?
No,
Okay.
unless there's questions or comments, seemed an easy thing to just invoke what we already had, but turns out it's not, so.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So Jim Bray brought this up originally, and it's kind of been something that I've done a little research on since then and talked to other neighbors about. Was an airport foundation, actually a 501c3. So just to be clear, FOCA is a social nonprofit, meaning that they're tax-free, but there's not, whatever you donate to FOCA is not tax deductible.
Now,
And the reason,
that's not widely known.
I know, and it isn't because it's a C4, and that means that it's restricted to the airport. I think to be a C3, you have to have a very public purpose and mission, and that's not what FOCA really is about. Yeah, so there's some issue there about donations to FOCA that people can't deduct it. So my thought is that if we can have an airport foundation, it'll make it more attractive for people to donate to it if they can deduct it. And the next step would be to get most large corporations that match donations, they do it through third-party companies. And I looked at those, and it seems like as long as you meet all the general federal requirements about not being a religious organization or promoting anything, or it's no discrimination and all those kind of things, right? Then you can potentially get the IRS or the corporate matching approval then, and then it could actually be quite significant what the funds could be that we could raise that way. So I also got more excited about it because I found a gentleman in Montana who had done it for a little local airport up there, and it's a state-owned airport by the Montana Aeronautics Division, and he created a foundation for that particular airport to ease the burden of government, I guess is the purpose of the foundation. It's a public airport, it's open to everyone, and he got it approved, and it's actually listed on the IRS site for nonprofit. So it is possible for an airport to at least get the federal approval. It needs to go through the state approval as well.
Yeah, and that sounds like almost exactly our situation. Instead of state-owned, it's special district-owned. And so I
Yes.
think it's from the tax IRS standpoint, it sounds to me like a slam dunk match. And then some.
I think so. And I met with Mark yesterday and he gave a lot of pointers and hints on how to do this. He has created a couple of these of himself.
Mhm.
So I think we have a lot of the expertise to move forward. So it's completely separate from CPAD and anything else, and it will be exclusively focused on the airport if I have to do it. So it's only to help fund any airport
Yep.
activities, operations,
Now,
or
the other
improvement.
thing I think too is in this circumstance, there's not a conflict if the board members want to participate in this as another entity. I don't believe that's a conflict.
I don't think so either. I asked Mark about it and he didn't think it was, but I can ask more people, I guess. He recommended that when we set this up, or whoever sets this up uses a company, I guess he uses one in Georgia, and they charge about $400 for doing all the filing. And then of course there's the filing fees with the state and the federal, but total it comes to about $1,000 to set up a 501c3. And
Yeah.
then you can pay a little extra for expedited processing, so you could have it set up within 2 months. So I had one resident tell me that he was ready to write a check, but he was excited about the 501c3 possibility and also corporate matching. So
Good.
I
Does he
think
want to be named the leader of this thing? That would be.
I don't know. I should check with him first before mentioning any names. But
Yeah, I'm encouraged by what you found, especially the example of the Montana one, because I would think a lot of the boilerplate and the
yes,
setup we could just steal and run with, because he seems very willing to share what he did, sounds like.
yeah. Actually, just before this meeting, send a request for his formation documents. So
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll get us off the ground a little quicker with this. So
And I think the other thought I had a while back is that we really need, because we do not control a majority in the residential area enough to say get 2/3 votes for that, we really need an active advocacy group to participate in things like voter initiatives and that other stuff. And this could come out of this foundation in one form or another.
yeah,
The group that runs it. Now we have to be careful with the voter initiative thing with the board members, but I think in general, just somebody that is in the business of promoting the airport, looking for, say, EAA participation or Young Eagles participation or Explorer Scout participation in the airport to kind of just develop that sort of activity doesn't happen in FOCA.
Right.
So I think this would be a good place to do some of those activities also while raising money.
Yeah, the gentleman I talked to in Montana, he said that the foundation actually organizes the volunteers and then they coordinate with the state the work that's needed, and then they provide the volunteers to do that work on the airport. So
Yeah, it might be a way to jumpstart that because we don't have much luck catching volunteers normally.
right.
Great. Good.
And then there's all the formation rules, I guess. I think Mark recommended that you keep it where you appoint a board of directors and don't have members and votes and lose control of the foundation, but that's more a matter of how it gets set up, I guess. So.
Yeah.
So with that, I think I'm gonna move forward with this and just as a neighbor, I guess, and I think it's exciting and I'll try to involve the right people, and I'm hoping Mark will help with it. But he's already said he's willing to help. And
Yeah, I believe he would be on board to look over your shoulder because there'll be options, and I think he has the experience to
right.
select a better or worse option, so to speak. So yeah, Carrie, I think that's great.
And again, if it's a foundation with a maximum of 50,000 a year, then it's fairly straightforward, both with tax returns and everything. And as we talked about, if we get over that, then it's another nice problem we have to deal with. But once we get there, so
yeah.
So I think that's it. So let's move on to new business. See, I have the old agenda here. Hang on a second. But the proposal for street funding is on the agenda, so we could start with that.
Yeah, I guess I can share that if you want to let me share.
Okay, I will stop sharing right now.
So we're kind of, what I decided to do is start chewing on the issue of street and gutter funding in some form. So this is a discussion letter. I sent it out to you guys. I didn't send it out publicly because it's not ready for public. Part of, I think what we need to do is establish some guidance for anybody coming along that wants to get involved in paying or raising fees or selecting amounts. I think the fee situation is kind of ugly. If we can't get a 2/3 vote, which I don't realistically think we can, the other option is a special assessment district requiring a majority vote, but that special assessment still has to have some justification for the amount it's asking for through the certified financial stuff. And then if the residents choose to raise money on their own, they can pick any amount. It circumvents that requirement for a detailed financial analysis, as I understand it. There's some legal gray area in that, but I think they need some amounts to chew on. And then lastly, I think we're very close to having a public meeting, not a board meeting, but just a public discussion on kind of a revamp of what they want the future of this place to look like and what the costs are. And I think the suggestion was we publish a frequent simplified report of deficits and things and where the income comes from. So this could fall into that category also. In sheer dollars, the street gutter overwhelms the airport as far as what we're proposing right now. So it's a big area to hit. So what I did is yacked away, and then the bottom line, because you guys are pretty much familiar with what's going on. One thing I did do is I looked at the national average for class 2 slurry seal and ended up with 370K for us, which is not much different than the white paper, as I recall. It's pretty close.
Pretty close.
Mhm.
The recommendation is 5 years. I think we're past that. The other thing I added into this is gutters. Those have always been ignored. So I think there's a need to have some sort of an approach to deal with them as we move forward. So what I did is just played some games, foods for thought. And I separated the airport district 131 properties to the 124 that are in the assessment district for the bonds. Those are the ones basically need the streets. It solves the criticism of the few properties on the commercial side that don't want to be paying for streets that they don't have any use for. We needed, so the suggestion was we kick the annual maintenance budget up 22 more K so we can get on a quicker schedule for crack sealing and other activities that we need to do. That's just a number kind of out of the sky. I think if we can get a slurry seal within 5 years, just on my judgment, the surface is not in bad shape right now. We have the ongoing problem of cracks and movements, which is inherent with the subbase we have, but the top's not warm yet. Hey, so I think I just picked a number. So I says, well, if we shoot for getting this slurry seal done in 5 years, we need 74K a year to get to the amount we need. And then maybe plan on a 10-year slurry cycle instead of a 5. And then gutter replacement, we've got some quotes for another problem we have, but it's about 10K per property to remove and replace the gutter and re-backfill and do all the good stuff associated with that. So assuming 124 properties, 10K, I rounded it down to 100K. Well, it's 1,200,000. So if we can generate 100, we need 100K a year to do that in 10 years. So it's a big number. And I think these are the kind of numbers that the public needs to hear in a logical and repeated sense, so they know what we're faced with. So this ends up pretty high number, 196K a year for 5 years, and then we can drop it a little bit if we go with the 10-year slurry seal thing. So that's kind of just to try to get the juices flowing and say, well, what's reasonable? How are we going to tackle this thing? What kind of numbers are we talking about? And then this would end up being kind of public information for what they're faced with as far as trying to get caught up and then maintain the streets and on some reasonable level. So it's all kind of wild ass guess and hand waving, but I thought we should start trying to put some numbers to these thoughts. So that's basically it. So you don't hurt my feelings if you say it's all BS and we need to do this, that, or the other. I just wanted to kind of throw some stuff out there so we can start pinning this number down. Our option is, continue doing what we're doing and then estimate that in some 20 to 30 years, there'd be a failure and another bond is the only way that we're going to ever get them back to a reasonably usable condition. So it's the old pay me now or pay me later and pay me more later problem. So.
Oh, this is great that you did this, Burl. One of the questions I have though was, in a previous meeting, you guys said that you think that when Terry and I had worked on trying to figure out what the slurry seal was going to cost, that I can't remember if you said you talked to somebody that thought that the slurry seal for the road was a less expensive or cost less than what the slurry seal is used on the runway and taxiway, correct?
Well, we had a bunch of input from a resident including said the slurry seal is only 100K, but I think the resident is not not thinking in terms of a slurry seal to this class 2. So I think the number in the white paper, the one number I did was I took the recent runway slurry seal, came up with a price per square foot and then rolled it over to the streets. And I think that's one of the basis numbers. I don't remember which one it was, but it's like 384 or 390. So it's in the ballpark.
Yeah, it was like 380 something.
Yeah, I think we need to again educate people that we're not doing a parking lot seal coat, which is essentially useless. It's paint, looks nice, as it requires the fine aggregate, and it's an emulsion, and it follows with Caltrans specs and that sort of thing, so it works, for a while.
Yep. Okay.
So I think we're all on the same page. We got some strong pushback from some of our resident experts that said that they had a price of 174K to do the whole thing prior to the 2 million, the 1.5 million. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I think part of our challenge, is to communicate what we're talking about here and what it is and what it isn't. So. Yeah. But I think realistically, we can stretch that 5-year out because the initial street failure occurred at about 30-ish years. So because it's not a roadway that gets very much use, it basically breaks up because of the movement underneath. So I think we buy a little bit of time schedule stretch, but we just have to pick a number in order to get started.
Do you guys recall what maintenance was done in 2018, not that long ago?
Yes.
Yes.
That was almost 100K crack seal that was done. And
Yeah,
it pretty much, so all the little crack seals you see around this, I can't remember how many linear feet it was, but.
Okay. The reason I ask is I've got the one invoice from Vera Camp that we paid, and you're right, good memory, it's about $93,000, and they itemize what they did, and this one's dated, the invoice anyway is October of 18, so just
Right.
before Gary
Yeah, that,
buys, but then there's a second one here, and this is just a year earlier, September 29th of 17, for almost 130,000, and it just says per contract, and I haven't found the contract yet, so I'm just,
I think what happened is that one was never actually, we didn't do it twice. The only thing I remember actually getting done was the 95K crack seal, and that was based on 10-year savings from the 13K a year income.
this one says paid in full with a check number for
Right.
$128,000, so.
Yeah, I think that's what he ended up paying them once it was all done. So I think the 95, I don't know. I'd have to look and see what they did, because we didn't spend 200K.
Okay, I'll run it down, just so we know what we're talking
I
about.
know from the financial statements, it was less than 100. It was 95, as you said, or 93. So
Yeah.
I don't recognize any 128.
But yeah, we should bore down on that and find out. But basically it was round numbers, 100K to do the crack seal that was done. And I think we need to do that again sooner than a slurry seal to keep stuff sealed up. That's a priority, because the cracks are continuing where they were, and they've reopened where they had done the crack seal. And then there's potential for having to crack seal rigorously along the edges of the gutters and stuff to seal things up. So again, I think the other option is we could go to a bunch of contractors and get their thoughts, but I'd really, we're not having much luck with our RFP for fuel, but having somebody without a money in the game to come in and do some sort of a condition assessment proposal would be nice. We don't have our DOT department or anything to do it for us, so. Otherwise, I think we just use the best judgment we can when we can, and try to keep it in the public eye, I think, is the approach we're heading towards at this point.
So it almost sounds like the next step is to have a public forum, I guess, and have people speak to what they want and what they don't want, and how they want.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of what I wanted to do is bring you up to speed on the future of Cameron Park Airport District. When I have a good day, it's pretty positive. When I have a bad day, we're not going to make it past 10 years, whatever the number is. Right. And just review, because I think we have pretty good numbers for the airport operating budget that we need. The missing stuff, the unfunded. I think that's not going to go around too much unless we start talking projects or upgrades. And so I think we ought to start thinking in terms of giving them this kind of information, giving them that kind of information, and then whatever else, and just start getting them used to the numbers and where they come from, and go from there. Ultimately, we can kind of whine a little bit that, we need their support if this is going to work, or whatever they want to do. But I think we need to, as was suggested by actually Dan and Foka too, was to have a very simplified and keep repeating this kind of information in a form that we rub their nose in it, like on a monthly basis type thing, something like that. Like this month the gate broke, so that cost us this we hadn't planned for, or that, something like that. So to do that, we need some kind of a rational basis for the numbers we throw out there.
Okay.
So whatever, so we can, what I wanted to do is just get you guys thinking about this stuff and see if this is one approach. It stretches the timeline on the slurry, it identifies the the crack sealing stuff, and it mentions gutters and gives an idea of what they cost. And I think we somehow need to get this in a form that's known out there, or, you know, with the, so they can see what the impact of this is. This is nothing new. I think Kevin found it was a 2000 letter that's basically the same thing, and it also said that we've never passed a budget resolution, or never passed a budget increase vote since the district was formed, and that's still the case. So yeah.
Yeah. So what is the concrete next step? Is that we try and schedule one of these, or because
Well,
I guess the numbers look good to me and I don't really have a.
Well, I think we need to agree that the numbers look pretty good, and I think we need to do a test presentation to the board of our simplified presentation format.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think in trying comprehensive, I think we're too detailed in what the other things we've done. We got all that in the background, but I think we need to figure out a one pager that gives them a picture of the whole thing.
Right.
And then maybe what I was thinking is a second page with photographs of all the stuff that's not right, meaning broken stuff or big cracks in the pavements and that kind of thing. We do a very visual, but not a lot, not go through every little item, but just sort of some highlights of that. That's kind of what I was thinking, but we need some input as to whether that makes sense. So we'd have like a two slide presentation, one with numbers and the other with pictures of broken or failing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
Okay.
a status update.
Okay.
And I think we're pretty much there. What I would do is streets and gutters, airport ops, and then we've got capital projects. And I think, you know, the only thing that's really hidden that we're pursuing is the fuel system stuff, unless there's other capital projects that we think we should make sure we mention.
Yep. All right, sounds good. So maybe we should try and put together some kind of presentation like that for the board, and
Yeah, so that's
review
my
that the next
thought.
meeting.
If you guys think these numbers are kind of okay and the airport ops numbers are kind of okay, I can try to mish this together on one page and see what it looks like if you want.
I don't know, should we try and present alternatives that if we have to borrow the money, what the cost would be? And
No, I think we get too complicated.
okay, then it's already yeah.
You know, if people, the problem we have is both interest and attendance. And I think the idea was this would go out in some sort of a monthly update. For example, recently the Miraloma gate broke.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that somehow should go along with this stuff and say unplanned failures of the month and then list them.
Right.
Something like that, you know.
Okay.
To keep communicating to people, because I think we've done an outstanding job of keeping things going and nobody knows it. So part of it is to sell the efforts that are going into this and then identify things that are, you know, not working as they happen so that they can start getting a sense of, yeah, you know, we got to deal with this.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Burl, that you have a page with photos physically showing what is broken and what we're having difficulties with our budget to fix or replace. If you don't have that, then it's the shrug the shoulders kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I put a dollar amount to it, and they can't put a urgency on it. So I think
yeah, what I'm thinking is the big cracks in front of the office and the taxiway and some of the screwy electrical that Terry just found in the gate operator that's totally not the code that we need to fix. And I don't know how to convey, like the card reader is ancient and that sort of thing. Maybe I don't know, we'll have to figure out a creative way to get a visual image of stuff that's not working. So. So I think that's what we're heading to, is some sort of and it can be on the webpage. I think more appropriately, it's sent out as kind of monthly update separate from all the other stuff we're doing. Is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You know, I really don't want to write a newsletter because I could talk about my cat and what he's doing, but I don't know as we need. I think just something that. So if you want, I can try to, in my lack of artistic talent way, put something together and we can chew on it if you'd like.
I think what you put together is really good, and we need to get it in front of people too. And actually, there was just a chat comment from Karen that she really supported that we do something like that.
All right, yeah, we'll do that. So I'll need some, we'll try it, and I think we'll do it. I'll try to put together a sample as I see it, and then we can chew on that by the next IF meeting.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for pulling this together, Burl. That was,
Okay,
Yeah, appreciate that.
I seem to always volunteer, but I don't mind, get it done.
yeah. All right. Next item is, I think it's called a pro forma budget. So it came up, we asked, or Burl asked in the last board meeting, what people would like to see the INF committee work on. And one thing that came up was Dave said we always chase, given the income we have, what can we get done, instead of maybe going the other way and saying what are the expenses and maybe disregard what the revenue stream is for a moment and just see what's really needed to be done. So I think
Yeah,
one of the,
he went further than that in a conversation with me too, in that we're working very hard to establish proposed fees and proposed increases.
Yeah.
And we really have to have first the budget basis justification for those fees to get past the necessary legal reviews of these things. So I think he's kind of nudging us in the direction of let's really solidify
mhm.
and justify these numbers, and then the fees come out of those. So it's kind of a little bit more emphasis on a way to back these up.
Right.
Now you have that proposed, you just went through the
Yeah,
webinar,
let me just give you,
kind of has all that stuff. So it may give you a clue as to what the rigor is on these things. I've never seen one, so I don't know what they look like, but
yeah, it was an hour presentation, but I don't know if you can see
You can see it.
some slides right now.
Yes.
yeah.
So I guess what the recommendation is when you forecast, then one important thing is that you get input from all the members, or in our case, the residents, about what they're willing to pay for and what they want to pay and what they would like to see the district evolve to. And then you should make a short-term budget that's no more up to 5 years, and you should look back 3 years and see what we had then and what's needed going forward. And then we should make a long-term budget that looks at capital and infrastructure projects over the next 10 to 30 years of what's needed there. So I'm trying to pull something together for this committee to review. And there's a lot more slides here. I sent them to everybody on the committee and to the board members. So it's one of the attachment I send out there, and all of them are now available on the office computer as well. So there's a big document about policies. So got to make sure that our budget policies are in place. What does it mean to have a balanced budget? And there's a lot of items I don't really think we have in our policies yet that could help simplify this process and make it move along. But so I think, as you said, we need to come up with a budget basis for, instead of just always looking at what is the money available, what do we really need to run this place, and that should probably be guided too by what is it the residents want, right, for the airport.
If we can find that out, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the purpose of the public meeting, is to try to solicit them for
Right.
what they want. And the fundamental question is, do they even want it? I mean, are they willing
Right.
to, or do we just, yeah, so I think what this smells like coming from seeing the other government end of things is basically they're looking for a 5-year, 10-year budget plan that's got some teeth or meat to it.
Right.
And it's in their, probably in their format and their backup. And then some of these things, there's predictions for inflation and all that kind of stuff that's kind of canned, that you would adopt something that you get off of some other database that you apply, and then it gives you basically a rolling target to see how you're doing. Yeah.
Right. So what I tried to, well, it's very preliminary, but let me just share here that. So this is our operation budgets that we're working. By the way, one other thing they mentioned was that when you have to revise your budget frequently, there's a big red flag that there's problems in your finances, because it should just be a guiding document once a year, right? So
Yeah.
I think we have that one red flag in our, that we've now revised the budget 3 times this year, fiscal year. So
Yeah. Well, I think we acknowledge it. We have problems.
yeah. So for the long term, one of the things they recommended is that you go through the fixed assets that we have. So I tried to do that to some extent here. And then for each one of those, we talked about it for the runway and the streets, right? But establish the condition of each one of these CPAD assets, and then find out when is it due for replacement? What is the status of condition? Should it, is it a matter of just maintaining, or does it need to be replaced? And if it is replaced, do we need new technology? Like, for example, the airfield systems for lighting, right? Do we want to switch to LED if it needs to be replaced sometimes in the future, right? And what are the new requirements that can be legal, and requirements can also come from the residents? What do they want to see happen in these areas, right? And then, of course, you have the financing for each one of these infrastructure improvement projects. And then you have what is the impact on the operational budget over the next number of years. And that can actually be, the way I look at it, if you look at the fuel system, the impact on the operational budget would actually be negative, meaning that we would save money on all the FORTA test and underground tank fees and alarm systems that we require to carry, because it's an underground tank, right? So
Well, we would lose the income from the fuel sales.
No, I mean, we get a new fuel system, right? So the operational budget will go down, right? Because it's a lot cheaper to operate an AST than it is.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
But and the same, like with the point of sale system, I think we would save like $2,000 to $3,000 a year if we got a new one, right? So
yeah.
So because, and that was actually mentioned too, because our infrastructure is so old, it actually costs more to maintain it, and you may ask for service order and people come out, well, we don't support that anymore, right? Like it happened to the point of sale system. And then all of a sudden you have this expense that you didn't plan for in order to keep operating. So
yeah.
I think that should play into the condition of the systems, and the gates may be another one in that category, I guess, or the card reader, as you said.
Sounds good. And that's kind of what we did at the, what I've done before. I didn't actually have to do all the work, but you generate like a problem sheet and a condition sheet moving forward, and then estimates to make the corrections. And then you never get enough money for it. So it always keeps getting bigger.
Right. Yeah. So then, of course, you have to prioritize which one of these you would want to.
But then when money becomes available, it's a great tool to justify your request. That's really what it does. I assume they're heading the same way, because these assembly bills and stuff are modeled after something, I'm guessing.
Right.
Cool.
So my proposal is that the committee moves ahead and try and fill in this, and I think we have to involve the residents and what they really want, right? Do they care about the fuel system? Should we just get rid of it, right? And then,
Yeah, they need to be participating in that answer. And then I think the other thing is we've come a long ways in this with our little project budget request forms. They don't have
right,
all of
exactly.
these categories, but we could kind of morph those a little bit, and they could be, you could present it in a single chart like this, and then they could be the backup some form or another.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe another column here would be whether it's a need or whether it's just a wish or something like that, or something
Well,
like that.
these basically are all needs. These are
Right.
all,
I agree. Mhm.
they're not the dream list of, the bowling alley for the manager's use is not necessarily come on here unless everybody feels that's what they want, then it gets on
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could have like widening the runway to the required FAA standard 60 feet, right? Or something like that.
Yes,
That could be a wish, I guess. As long as we grandfather in with 50, we're probably okay. But
if the public feels they want to do that, then they need to be aware of the real cost.
Right,
Before they push
exactly.
that here. And we didn't really do that in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think another thing that really talks to this is if you look at our balance sheets, which gets up with one of the financial statements once a month. If you look at our fixed assets, you can see that the value is going down constantly, which means that we don't really maintain it or improve it or upgrade it, right? So
Right.
the value of the airport is just slowly deteriorating, right? And
Mhm. Mhm.
so, but so I guess I did not get it done for this meeting, but what they recommend, maybe I'll look 3 years back again and look at an operations budget, and then we need to talk about where should we be. Like also they mentioned regulatory and minimum wages and things like that. That's something that constantly bumps up the budget, right? And we haven't had a way to increase those areas.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I will offer to try and put some more details together on both a short-term and a long-term budget, and see how we can fit that together, and we can review that next meeting. I may ask for help in the intervening time, but
Okay. And then associated with the pro forma budgets is Dave strongly encouraged us to research budgets at other similar airports, see if we can get their information, and you could basically see the format and the numbers and
yeah,
see
I'm
what
glad you mentioned that. I just found something I thought I would share real quickly here.
because there are some publications out there. So
This is the El Dorado County budget for 2019-20 is the only one I could find.
right.
Airports have been moved into the CAO here, the airports, cannabis, cemeteries, parks. And you can see the budget for Placerville and Georgetown combined exceeds $2 million.
Yeah.
They don't list what the revenues are right here. I don't know what their fuel sales and stuff are, but you can see here that they have increase of 155,000, 8.13% compared to the previous fiscal year. So I think that at least acknowledge that there is an increase in.
Yep. And somewhere there's a bunch of stuff that backs that number up somewhere. Maybe.
Exactly, and that's what I'll try and find, right? Because
and so the other part of it is it's very hard to find comparable airports to ours because of our unique situation. But
right,
but I think looking at the form and format and their sort of things that they publish and the percentages is very handy to have in case we're
right.
asked to justify it. Yeah.
Um,
I found something else. I think I send it to you. I found a book about a bunch of airports in one area, and it went kind of the same thing. I'll see if I can. I don't remember if I
I'm
sent
not sure. You may have. I don't remember receiving that, but
that that's another, it was a booklet kind of like this that went through some stuff, so
Right.
there, it's out there. But
you can
Dave
see,
Dave encouraged us to work on that part of it too, in order to kind of get some basis for comparisons or whatever.
Right.
In my past, I've found it extremely hard to find comparable airport given our situation, because most of the residential air parks are private, and that's a different breed of cat quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Georgetown is smaller than we are, and they actually have a budget that's about equal to what we have, right? So,
Yeah, it's in the range, but then they also have administration covered by the county. See,
exactly, that's not counted. They actually mentioned that explicitly, that they set that to $0 and it's covered by something else, I guess.
yeah. So those are the kind of things we'd have to modify in order to make a direct comparison of something.
Exactly, yeah. So it
Yeah.
would be nice if we can get the details behind these numbers, and we can try and see if I can find anything like that. So
Supposed to be public, but I don't know
Yeah.
where it is. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
But I
so
think
yeah, good point. I did. Okay.
yeah, what we're headed at is building a actual capital expenditure budget plan that's covers all this stuff, and we haven't done that. So
It's a CSDA, the Special Districts Workshop. They recommended the same thing, and there's a government GFAO, I guess, that awards the best budget presentation each year, and they said you could get a lot of good ideas there. But the only one I could find was related to airports for San Diego County, and there, of course, they were talking millions of dollars, so it's not comparable in any way. So
hard to make it compare. Yeah.
exactly.
And well, ideally it has to stay within California. So,
Yeah. Exactly.
because of the regulatory climate's different so much in other areas, but
Well, I think just making the budget report, they did cost more than our annual budget. So it was a very glossy document. So,
well, that's, of course, they have all that stuff.
anyway, I think that's all I had on the budget thing right here. So,
Okay.
are there any comments or things I should look at? Or I think we agree we need to come up with a pro forma budget of what it really costs, and then have the input from the residents similar to the street funding on what they want. And
Yeah, and we're not quite ready to schedule that yet. There's quite a
exactly.
bit of work to do, so
Okay. Sounds
no
good.
rush. And
Makes
then
sense.
if we can find templates or help regarding the things associated with these requirements for the fees, that would be helpful too. So we don't do it twice, so to speak.
Right.
A lot of it sounds the same.
What's going to be the difference between this public meeting versus our open forum from last year? Because we did have our deep dive information, and we did provide them what we thought we needed to, with the bare bones, what we needed to accomplish. And then we allow them to speak their piece on what they were looking for.
I think we need to repeat that and use a simplified presentation is all I'm thinking.
Okay.
We need to keep hitting them, because when we did a long time ago, when we did the workshop, we pretty much left it wide open. What do you want? No holds barred. Now we're saying, this is where we're at to sustain, and that kind of, it's a little different message, but it's basically the same.
Okay.
Same process. And we'll get the same 14 to 20 people participating, so we'll have the same kind of information.
We had 40. We had 40 in that meeting.
Yeah, we got quite a few.
Yeah.
But I think we just need to keep doing that, and I think the input that I've heard on having a consistent monthly update sort of like keeps it alive in between these big jumps, because the average person here doesn't see what we're going, what we're dealing with on a monthly basis as far as juggling this and juggling that. So I think that's useful.
Right.
I agree.
Where would we publish that, or how would we communicate that? I guess.
Well, I think it goes on our airport web. I think it's public information. And then I think we ought to send a separate email with just that on it to everybody every month
Okay.
and see if anybody reads it.
Sounds good.
It's probably illegal, but we could put a serial number on it and then have a drawing for $50 every 3 months and see if anybody
Yeah.
try to get some incentive, but I don't think you can legally do that.
All right. Yeah, so you added this consider researching budget. So I think we kind of started on that. I would like to drill down in the county airport one a little bit more, but
Do the county, and then if you can, there is stuff out there. I found some other stuff, and I think we just need to see what we can find that's useful. Now, I don't know if Caltrans Aeronautics has. They
that's a
don't.
good.
I don't know what they have as far as data on budgets. I know we've repeatedly asked AOPA and got nothing, so I think that's a dead end. But there might be some other organizations, because if it's a public airport with public money, all of this is supposed to be published somewhere.
Mhm.
Publish
Yeah.
it,
That's a good idea. Yeah, I'll
so it wouldn't hurt, to sniff around.
maybe, I don't know if I can use Kevin as a contact. He has Caltrans contacts, I guess. So maybe that.
Well, and he doesn't want to be bugged by a bunch of people, but there may be a GAO state general accounting office thing or something that we could I don't know,
Right.
it's hard to get stuff out sometimes.
Okay. Our last one is to review an RFQ for the taxi markings on Boeing Road. So I can bring that one up.
Yep. Just for a sanity check for the group to take a look at. We can
So
actually.
you have 3 documents there, bro. Which one should I?
Just do the project request, because that's really what
Okay.
we look at.
Are you able to see that now? Oh,
Yes, I can.
okay. Good. Let me.
So here's the story is, one of the first letters we got from Caltrans announcing that we had no night ops included the issue that he felt the X's that had historically been on Boeing were inappropriate. Whether he had or didn't have jurisdiction, we went through a lot of mumbo jumbo. So to be nice, we blacked out the X's. Because he felt the X's meant no ops, meaning you can't taxi a plane on an X'd surface. And we went to FAA and they said, we don't care because it's a street where it's not an airport, yada. And so it's been around and around, but it continues to be an issue with the Caltrans inspection annually. And the best thing that they've come up with is this, there's an engineering document that FAA put out as an interim, and you basically mark the non-runway with taxi in big letters at each end. And there's specific FAA sizes that you do that with. So we had a flurry of, oh, we'll take care of it. We'll volunteer. Nothing ever happened. We had an offer for, I can get you a good deal on paint, okay. So I think Kevin did it. We got a quote for one company, the only one that responded, came up with about $6,000 to do this marking job. So at this stage of the game, I think we're on a roll as far as the state goes. I think we've got some challenges that are going to continue with obstructions. If they want to play hardball, we'll be back in trouble on those. So my thought is, let's get this done this spring and be done with it. Everything points to this is the answer that they're looking for. So the 6,000 budget comes from that old estimate. We might do better than that. I don't know. The thing is, if you look at the description, these letters have to be about 68 feet high to comply with the FAA size requirements. So it's not just go out there and spray paint taxi and the best you can. There's specific dimensions and stuff. So this is a proposal to go ahead and pay it out of the accumulated street fund, not airport, and get this done. Because if you restripe anything on the streets, it comes out of the street fund. That's my rationale for not using airport funds. And this has become part of the permanent street striping requirement. So, so that's it, basically.
So I guess we expect that any slurry seal or crack seal will be so far in the future that we don't
Well,
want
then you got to redo this. If you obliterate it, you got to redo it. So, but I think we need to get it done.
Yeah.
I don't think we can wait until we might slurry seal and make it part of that package. I think we need to do it now, in order to keep the momentum, the positive momentum going with Caltrans.
Well, yeah, that's definitely.
So I think it's a small price to pay for keeping him happy is basically what we're doing.
Right, and keeping our night operations, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing we can do here is then for the committee to maybe suggest that we present this to the next board meeting, right, to approve the street funding
That
to,
was my idea, is to have the committee chew on it and see if they have any problems with the way it's written, or they have a better idea or something. And then like we do
Right.
the other things, we'll move it forward to the board for them to review and approve. Now, it was mentioned in the last board meeting, but it wasn't voted on because
right,
we didn't have the backup. This stuff wasn't done yet, so.
right. Now we have the project request here.
And then the other two documents, if you want to go to the diagram one, if you want,
Okay,
it'll show people how big this thing has to be to satisfy.
is that taxi marking, the PDF?
yeah.
Okay, that should be up now.
Yes.
This is the RFQ, not the picture
Oh, I meant, sorry.
dimensions. There you go.
All right,
So this is out of the engineering bulletin 72A that the FAA does. And what I did is, these are minimum dimensions. So they had an 85-foot minimum width. So I stretched it because our streets are 100 feet pavement to pavement. So I just did a linear expansion to match the width of the street. And then mostly, I think, multiplied it correctly. So it gives you the dimensions that they're looking for on the letters. An idea. It's a pretty big project. And the other part, there's a statement on another page that says you have to put a 1-foot black border around all the letters. I think that's an option, but to me, that's a lot harder than just painting a big square in black and then putting them on top of that, as far as labor cost. It takes more paint, but the labor cost. So what I did is just put a 75.5 by width of the street black background down first, and then put these letters on top of that for the contrast.
And that is what the original bid was for.
Yeah.
The request for the bids and interest went out with the numbers that you lined out, Burl. So it's the slightly smaller size, but the understanding was exactly as you just described, with the square painted down first.
Yeah, so I cooked an RFQ up that we can run through our RFQ review, and you know, we should be ready to go with this as soon as we get some thing. I also looked up El Dorado County Caltrans paint specs and included those in the RFQ. So
Isn't this are the streets wide enough to accommodate 95.5 total?
yeah, I think, aren't the streets 100 from pavement edge to pavement edge?
I'm not sure, but
Yeah, it's 50 to the center line, because I've been doing tree stuff from that. So So for these two edge of pavements, between the two edge of pavements is approximately 100 feet.
Okay, so there is space between the I and the beginning of the T and the edge of the
Yeah,
street.
a little bit, yeah. I think what they're saying is they need it full width is what FAA wants. And if you can't get to the 85 feet, they want you to pave an extension to make sure you're at least 85 feet wide. So at least we don't have to do that.
Wait, are you saying that the 85 feet would satisfy the requirement and we
No.
could say,
No,
No.
the 85 is a minimum, and if your taxiway is less than 85, you have to widen it at that point to make sure it's 85.
oh, wow, okay.
So we have I think we have 100 feet to work with, so it's roughed out to be the proportional to get you there.
Mhm. Okay, all right, thank you.
You know, the previous X that we had on the road, what do you think the length is on that one?
Probably 20, 25 feet. something like
25 feet. Okay. So
that.
this,
They were done originally and they've been fine forever, but now they're not fine. So, and I can see his rationale, and we couldn't argue him out of it, and FAA wouldn't back us either way. So we're kind of stuck in the sense of this.
does that regulation dictate how far away from at the end of the street it has to be, or?
No, that's up to us. So I think we need to determine roughly, but I think roughly in the location of the X's is what I was thinking. Maybe just put this on top of the X, paint it all black, and then drop this on top of it or something.
Mm,
You know, we'd have to kind of shift it around, see what. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem to dictate. It talks about parallel taxiways to runways, and so you're looking at the beginning of the taxiway where you would see it on approach. So I think the X's are about the right place anyway.
okay.
Seems to be.
Yeah. So the letters are going to be like 2.5 times bigger than that original
Oh,
X.
it's huge.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I guess hopefully those those property owners know that that's coming.
Yeah, I don't think it'll look too bad from that standpoint. I hadn't thought about that, but it's, you know.
Only until somebody does a donut on top of one of them.
Yeah, and then we got to maintain them. So I think I did it item 4, which is a little off screen. I did the guesstimate of square footages. So we got about 2,400 square feet of yellow letters and about 7,500 square feet of black. We do a big black X. So I think the 2,400 works out to about 200 gallons of yellow traffic paint. It's about 100.
Oh.
Well, no, it's less than that. It's, I'm speaking without thinking. Let me see. I might have a number, but it's quite a few gallons of paint to do this. So,
So before we put that down, would we consider fixing any of cracks that might be in that area in case?
well, that's a good point, maybe. I guess we need to survey that area and make sure that it's not going to obliterate the letters too quickly or have other issues. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. A lot of cracks at both locations. Wow.
And we could still push for volunteers, but I don't know. It's a pretty big scale project, and if you can't get your line straight or something, it's going to really look like crap for forever.
Yeah, I would say if it was the same size as the original X size, then I would say that's probably a good volunteer project. But now it's to keep everything straight. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think? Yeah,
So good point. I think we need to figure out, go out there and pick where they would go and then see if there's condition issues with the street that we need to deal with first. So
Yeah, it's true.
okay. Maybe we should go for a walk before the next meeting then and see if,
go for a walk with I have 100-foot tape, so we can
okay, well, let's do that.
kind of figure out what it looks like. Or you can do the Google, print the Google map area and lay it out on that and then go look at it too, either way, but
Yeah,
physically check it, yeah.
but we had to walk it, right, to see the condition of the street site. Not,
Correct, yeah.
I guess we can go borrow the measuring wheel we have at the office too.
We can, yeah. So yeah, I think we ought to pick our spot and then see if there's
Right,
other things to do.
and maybe do the overlay on a Google image before the next meeting. I can try and play with that too.
If you want, see how it looks.
Okay, so I think we'll do that for the next INF meeting and then decide what we're gonna ask the board for, I guess.
Yeah.
But it sounds like funded out of the street funds, which is currently, that's up to over 30 now, I think, so.
I've just been digging while we've been talking about this. The one responsive bidder, which came in August of 2019, I asked him to bid it two ways. One, if the gentlemen boys of CPAD wanted to go out and lay down the black seal coat or whatever it is, the background, we could do that. And it actually dropped the cost of this pretty substantially. It went down from $7,000 to into the threes. And a lot of that is, I think, wrapped up in the materials cost for that stuff, because he uses a pretty thick, I think, and robust seal coat to make sure that the adhesion of the paint itself stands up for a while.
Yeah, that's a good option. Now, he was using seal coat and there is a blackout paint that is spec'd in Caltrans, so it's probably better off doing the seal coat, I would guess, if it sticks.
Yeah.
Well, whatever was used on those X's, I think was something you'd have, if that's what we use, we'd be out there annually freshening it
Yeah,
up. But didn't last real long.
They just ran down and bought some street paint and painted them black.
Rust-Oleum.
Yeah, so I don't think that's gonna work.
Okay.
So yeah, that's an option that I think we should push
Yeah.
for.
Excellent.
It's likely the volunteers can smear paint over a 75-foot square.
Right. That sounds good.
Because the other stipulation is the black has to extend 4 feet above and below the taxi. So that's why the 75 feet comes in.
Okay, so it sounds like we'll research that a little bit more for the next INF meeting on the 22nd and then present it to the board on the 26th.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for preparing this, Burl.
All right. Well,
I think-
I think it's the way to get it done, because it's kind of been hanging for a while, and
Yeah.
we've got a little bit of money this year, so it's not going to get any better. So I might as well just do it, I think.
This is Jeff. Well, I was listening to your conversation. I was just looking up the airport grade black asphalt sealer is about at Ace Hardware, $26 for 4.5 gallons. So I don't know what kind of spread is on that, but that's kind of a ballpark on
Yeah, it's not super expensive. Yeah.
Well, I'll ask this same fellow, what he is recommending, or if he knows, if it's an ASTM spec or whatever, for whatever you found there, Jeff, is, because my guess is that any contractor would want to say, I need to know what's going underneath what I'm putting down to make sure they're comfortable it's gonna stay down.
Yep.
So there might be a warranty matter there for it, but hopefully not, given it's an FAA designated sealant,
Sounds good.
but I'll
Yeah.
ask.
All right. Okay,
Yeah, I think breaking the sealant, the black background part out of it makes perfect sense because you'll be able to do that. And then,
so that would require an update to the RFP, right, if we go that route?
yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Well, it's
okay.
basically
So-
them, it's basically would be easy because it would just be bid the letters on top of
Whatever is there, yeah.
seal coat, blah, 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 and we'll put the spec for the seal coat in the RFQ, so that's easy.
Very good. I think that brings us to, let me just pull up the agenda to make sure. Yep, I think, so again, the next meeting, just to point out, will be April 22nd. Then we have one more before the board meeting, which is the 26th, so.
Yep.
Unless there's any other comments, I think we'll adjourn here at 5:26.
Sounds good.
That's good to me. Thank you, sir.
Good.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Dave.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Paul.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Community.
Bye-bye.